My father didn't raise his voice when he said it. He didn't need to. His tone was calm, dismissive, like he was stating an obvious fact everyone else had already accepted. "Your sister is going to medical school," he said. "That's a real investment. Community college was good enough for you." I stood there holding the papers, my fingers numb, my chest tight. In that moment, something inside me finally clicked into place. Not anger at first, not even sadness, just a cold, quiet understanding that I had never mattered to him in the way Jessica did, and never would. My name is Emma. I'm 27 years old. I work as an operations manager at a mid-sized tech company. I started at the very bottom, answering emails and tracking spreadsheets. And over the years, I worked my way up through discipline, consistency, and grit. It's not a job people brag about at dinner parties. There's no title that makes strangers impressed. But it's honest work, and it's mine. Growing up, I was always the easy one, the child who didn't ask for much, the one who adapted, adjusted, stayed quiet. My younger sister, Jessica, on the other hand, was everything parents like to show off. Beautiful, charismatic, straight-A student, cheerleader. Teachers adored her. Relatives praised her. My father talked about her like she was proof that he'd done something right in life. When college came up, the difference between us became clearer. Jessica toured campuses. I toured budgets. I chose community college first because it was affordable. Then I transferred to a state university. I worked 2 jobs while studying full-time. I graduated with $42,000 in student loans and the belief that hard work was supposed to mean something. My father always said he didn't believe in handouts. People need to earn their way, he'd tell me. Struggle builds character. I believed him. I believed that if I kept my head down and worked hard enough, it would eventually be seen. I didn't know that rule only applied to me. The truth came out on a random Saturday. My father had asked me to help organize his tax documents, something I'd done for years because I was good with numbers. I was sorting through folders in his study when I found one labeled Education Trust. I hesitated before opening it, but curiosity won. Inside were wire transfers, tuition receipts, housing payments, all addressed to Jessica, all totaling $500,000, $500,000. My hands started shaking. Jessica had started medical school years earlier. I knew tuition was expensive, but I never imagined this. I never knew there was money available at all. I had spent 5 years paying down student loans, counting every dollar, while this money existed in silence. I walked downstairs holding the folder. My father was in the kitchen reading the newspaper. "What is this?" I asked. "That's private," he said, without looking up. "It's $500,000 for Jessica's education." That finally got his attention. He folded the paper slowly, irritation flashing across his face. "She's becoming a doctor. That's an investment." "I graduated with debt," I said. "You told me you didn't believe in giving money away." "She has potential," he replied flatly. "Medical school costs more. You went to state school. That was appropriate for your path." My path. I repeated the words back to him, barely holding my voice steady. I told him I'd worked 2 jobs, that I'd struggled, that I could have used help. "I let you live here rent-free," he snapped. "Be grateful." Then he took the folder from my hands and ended the conversation. I walked out in a daze. As I pulled out of the driveway, Jessica pulled in, driving a brand new silver sedan with temporary plates. I later found out it was a graduation gift. That's when the denial finally cracked. The favoritism hadn't started that day. I'd just been trained to excuse it. I called my mother a few days later, hoping she'd understand. She didn't. She said Jessica needed help more, that I was doing fine, that my sister's path was just more expensive. When I asked if there had ever been money set aside for me, She admitted there had been, but my father used it for his business instead. He decided I didn't need it. A week later, at a family dinner, my father bragged about Jessica's residency placement while barely acknowledging me. When an uncle asked how I was doing, my father cut in. Emma's practical, steady job, knows her limits. I locked myself in the bathroom afterward, listening as my father told relatives that Jessica was the one really going places. I stared at the floor and realized something painful but freeing. I had spent my entire life trying to earn approval from people who had already decided my worth. Days later, my father called asking me to co-sign a loan for an investment property. Jessica's credit wasn't ready yet. The irony was almost laughable. I refused. He called me selfish, hung up. That night, the anger finally turned into clarity. I started looking at my life without my family's voice in my head. At work, I'd quietly built a reputation as someone who fixed problems no one else wanted to touch. I'd led a project that saved the company millions. My boss had hinted at growth. What my family didn't know was that I had options. 3 job offers. One was a director-level role paying $140,000 plus equity. Another was a startup role with real authority. I'd also been aggressively paying down my loans, only $8,000 left. I had savings, independence. While my father invested in Jessica's dream, I had built mine alone. When he asked me to help with taxes again, I agreed, but this time I listened. I heard him tell Jessica not to worry about rent. I heard him joke that I was good for something at least. Something snapped. Not my heart, but my tolerance. I gathered my documents, called Jessica over, sat them both down. I laid out the evidence, the money, the unpaid loans, my job offer. I told them I was done, that I was taking the job, moving away, choosing myself. My father called me ungrateful. I told him I was finished shrinking to fit a role he'd decided for me before I was even grown. I walked out calmly, no shouting, no tears. The next day, I accepted the director position. I moved across the country. I paid off my loans. I started therapy. I built a life where my worth wasn't conditional. I don't talk to my father or sister anymore, not because I hate them, but because I finally stopped trying to convince them I deserved to be treated equally. For 27 years, I thought I wasn't worth the investment. Turns out, I was. I just had to be the one who believed it first. The weeks after I moved were quieter than I expected. No dramatic fallout, no apologies, just silence. At first, that silence felt heavy, like proof that once I stopped being useful, I stopped existing to them. But slowly, it turned into something else. Space. Breathing room. In my new apartment, the first place I'd chosen without panic or compromise, I unpacked old college notebooks filled with color-coded work schedules, bank statements I'd saved out of fear of falling behind. I realized how much of my life had been shaped by survival. While Jessica planned futures, I managed risks. At work, everything changed. People listened when I spoke. My ideas weren't labeled practical or safe. They were respected. In my first leadership meeting, I shared a plan I'd been refining for years. The room went quiet, focused. My VP said, "This is exactly why we hired you." I realized how rarely I'd heard words like that growing up. Therapy was harder. I kept minimizing everything, telling myself it wasn't that bad. My therapist helped me see the pattern I'd ignored for years. The skipped events, the muted praise, the way practicality replaced care. Each memory alone seemed small. Together, they explained everything. Jessica texted me once, "You didn't have to embarrass Dad." No concern, no curiosity. I didn't reply. What surprised me most wasn't losing my family. It was realizing how much energy I'd spent trying to earn a place that was never meant for me. Without that weight, I started choosing myself. I grew, traveled, paid off my loans, and felt something unexpected when the balance hit zero. Peace. I still grieve the version of me who thought love had to be earned. She deserved better. I did change. I stopped accepting scraps as generosity. I wasn't good enough for their investment, but I was always more than enough for my own.